Why chasing revenue no longer motivates you in your business. If you can relate to that, what I've just said there, that chasing the next financial target isn't motivating or exciting, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the co-founder of Kingdom Impact Lab along with my incredible wife Tattoo, and our goal, what we're trying to do is we want to inspire, motivate and basically help coach or consult, mentor, whatever it is, people around the world to become Christ-like in what they do, in all areas of their life, so they become magnetic to other people and people can read Jesus and the Gospels through their own actions and behaviour. My wife Tattoo is focusing on motherhood and sharing her story and journey and struggles and solutions she's been trying while trying to build a business with a 3-year-old and a baby, while homeschooling, and sharing the struggles and pains, and hopefully that will help and inspire you too. And for me, I'm focusing on helping Christian entrepreneurs in business who are experiencing something similar to what I did for many years, which is just struggling to find meaning and purpose in what I'm doing in my business and the goals I was pursuing. So that's the background. So let's dive into this video. So why chasing revenue no longer excites you? First, it's worth mentioning that humans in general are programmed to find fulfillment and enjoyment in the journey and not in the destination. For me, I'm an endurance runner, and I always find the pleasure and enjoyment in the training rather than the actual race day, and seeing my progress on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis in my improvements, rather than going to the race where I've experienced multiple times where you put so much time, effort and energy into training and things outside of your control just result in you having to not finish the race, which is extremely demotivating. We find joy in our routines and getting better at what we do and taking a step closer. Another example to illustrate this is with Christmas is a prime example, and with Christmas, if you think about it, that the joy and the excitement, at least for me, is in the anticipation and the build-up. It's looking forward to putting up the Christmas tree. It's looking forward to going out and seeing all the decorations. It's looking forward to hearing the Christmas carols and the Christmas songs and your favourite Christmas song for the first time that's played. It's looking forward to the time you're going to spend with your friends and your family and all of these things. And then Christmas Day comes and it's great, it's good on the morning and you do whatever it is on the Christmas Day. And then Boxing Day comes and then it's kind of gone. Everything's gone. And then it's kind of, Boxing Day turns into the 27th. And then you're in limbo for New Year, and then when New Year comes, you're just looking forward to getting started again in next year. And the point of that analogy is Christmas Day is the destination. We find the joy and the excitement in the build-up, the progression towards the destination. It's the anticipation of what it's going to be like when the destination actually arrives. And often when the destination arrives, we have our dopamine release, we feel that sense of fulfillment and joy and happiness and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, often a lot faster than we expect, this disappears, and then we're kind of asking what's next. Another example would be in sports. Boxing would probably be a good one. You'd look at it with Mike Tyson, for example, who was arguably one of the best boxers ever, and then he retired, and then his life as a boxer was training, and then he hit his peak and started to come down as he got older, and then he could no longer achieve the goals and the things that he used to set himself, so he retired, and then, you know, he kind of fell off a cliff kind of thing with partying and alcohol and drugs and all of these things as well. You know, you're focused on this one goal. It's your singular point. You're focusing towards it. Everything you do, your entire life is dominated towards progression, towards achieving that goal. One day you achieve the goal, or the time has passed for that goal, and then you just fall off a cliff. You feel lost. You know, you feel despair. You feel like your life has no meaning because previously your life had structure, and then it's gone, which is what happens. Sports people, Tyson Fury is another example. When he retired for the first time, you would have thought that he's got everything. He's got wealth, money, influence, TV shows about him, all of these things, but he fell into depression, and he tried to kill himself, I think, once, or he seriously contemplated it, as a result of everything before was focused on one goal, and then suddenly it stops and there's nothing to fill that void. The point of all of these examples I've just listed off is that it's to illustrate that we find meaning and purpose and joy and fulfillment in the progression towards the goal. And so this is not my own idea. This is something I heard from Jordan Peterson, which the vast majority, if not everything, the vast majority of things Jordan Peterson says, I think he's got it spot on in the way that he explains things. So check him out if you're not. And so the point is that you need to have progression towards a goal. When you achieve that goal, you have to set another goal. And here's another example to illustrate that point. So in running, I once worked with a running coach, Joe Corsione of the Everyday Ultra podcast. If you are into running, ultra running, check him out. He's one of the best. He's a really great person, great guy, great content. Check him out. And he was saying that what he tells people and his coaching clients and people who listen to his podcast is that if you've got one main race in a year, what he does is he always makes sure that he's got at least another race that he's signed up to afterwards, ideally another two, because immediately after you've achieved your goal, that you're going to start to feel depressed because you've achieved the goal and you're looking at what's next. And if you don't have something there as what's next, you get depressed, you feel a bit of despair, you lack the structure, and you risk your training suffering and losing fitness and going down the same route as the two boxes that I mentioned just. So what he teaches when it comes to running is that you've got your main goal, your main race here. That is the meaningful goal that you're working towards, and then you have at least one, if not two, other races scheduled in the distance. So you achieve that goal, and then immediately you feel good because you've done it, and then you start to think, okay, I need to rest now, I need to recover, and then back into training because I've got this next race, and then the next race afterwards, and then that's kind of what you do. You set yourself a goal, but you need to have at least another one, ideally two or more meaningful goals further on. And I can relate to that 100% in running and in other areas of life. What's the point of what I've just told you? Well, the point is that humans enjoy making progress towards a goal, and then we need another goal after that, so we don't feel the depression or all of the demotivated, lost after we've achieved it. we've got something immediately to work towards. But what this describes is Jacob's ladder, which is in Genesis. And Jacob's ladder, the way that Jordan Peterson teaches it, which directly resonates with me, is that Jacob's ladder is, you'd imagine like a ladder that expands upwards into heaven. Or you've got a ladder that goes up into infinity. And what we want as humans is we want to achieve a goal, and immediately afterwards we want to have the next goal, which is bigger and better. And then when we achieve that, we immediately want to have the next goal, which is bigger and better. And then we essentially would have a series of ever expanding goals with deeper meaning and more responsibility that just get bigger and bigger and bigger into infinity. So we are essentially, this is what the ideal is, we are essentially on an infinite quest towards achieving an infinite, unattainable goal. So we are making meaningful progression to this goal until we take our last breath. That's what we want to do, and by doing this we'll have meaning and purpose in what we do. We have joy and fulfillment, and that's the progression that we make. This applies to me, it applies to a lot of people. I don't know if this applies to everyone, but it's basically, but it's how you give your life focus, it's how you give your life clarity, it's how you give your life essentially meaning in some respects. And so, in other words, we want to make sure that the goal that we are currently pursuing with 100% effort, energy, resources, is the first of the sequence of goals which are bigger, more meaningful and more exciting. So just like with the runs, that you do your first race, and so instead of falling into despair and feeling lost and losing your motivation, you instantly have your dopamine release and you feel the satisfaction of achieving it, and you can celebrate your win, celebrate. But then immediately afterwards, it's the next goal. And then you make your progress towards that. However long it takes, it might take a year, it might take 10 years, it might take longer. But slowly, progress. And then you achieve that second goal. And then immediately we find that we have the next goal. And bigger and bigger and bigger. The way Jordan Peterson likes to explain this is and we'll combine Jordan Peterson and a biblical reference here, and that is that Jesus says that to pick up your cross and follow me, and Jordan Peterson interprets this as you take on the biggest responsibility that you can possibly imagine, and that's your cross, and then you pick it up and you start climbing up that mountain. Climbing up the mountain is towards your first goal. So, we're now faced with two scenarios. In scenario one, we're faced with following the pattern that I've just outlined. And that is, we pick up our cross, the biggest responsibility that we can think of at this moment in time, and we carry it, and we start to climb up that mountain towards the first peak, which is the first goal. We get there. We celebrate. And then we look over and think, over there is the next peak. That's where I'll go next. That gives you the direction. That gives you the clarity. That gives you the focus on what to do next. You're not standing at the top of that peak looking around thinking, well, where do I go next? What do I do next? Do I go back down? No. Instantly, you know, there's where I go next. Off you go. Higher, you get to that peak. Same thing. You celebrate your win, you've accomplished what you've set out to accomplish, and then you look and there's the next peak. And you pick up your cross and off you go up that into infinity until your last breath. That is your series of ever-expanding goals to infinity, where you're making that incremental, meaningful progress. Scenario 2 is you pick up the heaviest thing you can carry, the biggest responsibility you can carry, and you start climbing up that mountain, and then you get to the first peak, and then you look around, and then there's nothing else. And then you look around, and then you look over there and think, ah, that's the mountain where I should have been climbing, not this one. So then you've got to climb down the mountain back to where you started, and then you've got to start to climb up that one over there. Well, that's good. That's extremely demotivating, isn't it? With a running example, I've heard a story before of someone that was out running, and he was running a personal best, and he took the wrong turn of a race, and he ran 2 or 3 kilometers in the wrong direction with the half marathon people instead of the full marathon, and then he realised his mistake afterwards. Did he backtrack and go back the way he came to finish the race? No, he stopped and said, oh, I'm done. He didn't finish the race, he quit. Because you've gone so far in the wrong direction, and then you realise that you've got to stop. You're not going to achieve the goal you set yourself, and then you have to go back the way you come and then finish the race. It's demotivating. That's where people get unstuck. That's where people stop. So you've climbed up this second mountain towards this goal which you perceive to be meaningful, only to find that it's the wrong goal that you've set yourself. Demotivation kicks in. That's where the problem is. Now, let's expand that goal out a little bit further, and think that you're climbing the wrong mountain. You climb up that first peak, and you see another peak and another peak. You climb up there, you climb up there, and then you get to the top, and you look around and realise that you're climbing the wrong mountain, and you realise, and this is a common thing, and that you realise that you've just spent the last 20 years of your life in your career, and you've reached the ceiling of where you're going to reach in the company that you're working at, and that you've just realised that all of the 60-hour, 70-hour weeks that you've done, all of the sacrifices that you made along the way, in order to pursue your career ambitions at the expense of hobby, family, friends, your kids, all of these other things, holidays, was kind of a nothing, because now you've reached the top and you can't go anywhere, which is why people would have their midlife crisis, or quit the job and grow their hair long and put on crazy tropical themed clothes and come over to go over to Thailand for 6 months or so, and that's what happens. That's the reality. You realise that you've been climbing the wrong mountain for so long, and then you look back and you think that you've wasted your life, as opposed to the first one example, where you're aiming towards this meaningful goal, climbing the right mountain into infinity, and you know deep within your core, deep within your soul, that that is the right path for you. There's no doubt. You know that when you get to the first peak, you're going to have the next peak to do, and you know why you're doing it. That's the difference. So, we're on almost 20 minutes here, which is just the introduction to why chasing revenue no longer motivates you. So, all of this is extremely important. It's the framework to understand why chasing revenue no longer motivates or excites you. So, first of all, you do need to chase revenue, full stop. You do need to hit some level of financial security in your personal life, in your business first, before you can start to think about other things. Why? Because you have to, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to have food and shelter and a stable income before you can start to focus on other things. You have to provide for yourself and your family and people that are dependent on you before you can start to think about impacting other people. That's just the reality of it. You have to build a business that actually generates revenue on a month-to-month basis. Otherwise, your business is going to fail. That's not to say that you shouldn't be injecting kingdom impact into what you do anyway if you're a Christian. But there is a time and place for pursuing financial targets. But that is the first meaningful goal. That is the first peak on the mountain. The goal that you set yourself is intrinsically meaningful because you need financial security, financial comfort, whatever it is. You need to have enough money. You need to be in a position where you don't have to worry about whether you're going to have enough money this month for food. That's just the reality. Without it, you're constantly stressed. Money is one of the biggest reasons why people get divorced. Money is one of the biggest reasons why people argue and fight and fall out and argue. So you have to have some degree of financial security first. Achieving that is a meaningful goal. It's a big responsibility for you. It's a big responsibility for you if you have a spouse and a family, because you're providing for them. So you're carrying your cross, you're carrying your biggest responsibility up to that first peak. You get there, you've achieved financial security. You've achieved financial comfort. Making money, the demons of money and finances is no longer dominating your thoughts because you've done it. So naturally, you're thinking, what's next? So there you're in the position at the top of this peak. You look left, there's one path. You look right, there's another path. If you turn right, you're going down the path where you're going to set yourself the next financial goal. If you turn left, you're going to set yourself a goal that's not directly related to money and finance. So the one on the right will first go down this hypothetical path and we'll climb that mountain and see what happens as a hypothetical. And then we'll explore what happens if you turn left and climb up the mountain towards your other goal, which, if you want to have a goal that you can pursue until the day you die and know deep within your core and soul that it is the right path and the right thing to do, it has to be anchored in Christ, and it has to be anchored in God. It has to be anchored in some kind of transcendent ideal. Otherwise, it just won't work. So let's explore them. So, and again, let me just be completely open and transparent. I have climbed up I've climbed up the path down the right, chasing money, and now I'm on the path on left, climbing towards this transcendent ideal. So, been there, done that, and I'm currently on the journey. So that's, this is not just theories based on my own experience. So, first of all, with me, I achieved a financial goal, and so immediately I set myself a goal to more than double what had taken me over 7 years to achieve. And all of a sudden, that's what I was pursuing. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it to work. Things wouldn't work for me. And I'm not going to go into the details of why it didn't work for me in this video. There's a lot of other videos where I talk about it in depth. But I want to talk to you about like a psychological principle. And this psychological principle here was extremely self-destructive to me. And fortunately, I believe that I had some kind of a divine intervention which stopped me going down this path, which would have made my life, my wife's life, our 2 kids' lives infinitely more miserable as a result of it. So I'm extremely thankful that I didn't pursue this path too long. Here's what happened to me. I did something which is called hyper-intentionality, and I came across the concept by reading Viktor Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning. He was a German psychiatrist that was taken to Auschwitz, and he developed his theory of logotherapy afterwards, which essentially means that humans have to find meaning in suffering, and it's all about man's search for meaning in life in extremely dire situations. It's a difficult book to read and understand, but it shaped the way that I built my framework, and I definitely recommend it if you do. And he talks about something called hyperintentionality. I'm not sure if it was Viktor Frankl that coined this term or not. This is where I first read it. And the concept of hyperintentionality would be that you are focusing on something so much that it makes it even more elusive to actually attain. And the best way to describe this would be you're trying to fall asleep on a night, it's already 2 hours past your bedtime, you know tomorrow you have to be on your A game for whatever reason, you know that if you don't get enough sleep it's going to be problematic the next day, so you're trying to force yourself to sleep. Does it work? Not for me. The more I try to focus on falling asleep, the more stressful and the more elusive it becomes. Another example was we were coming back the other night, and John, who's almost 6 months, was woken up from his sleep to come back, and a whole bunch of things out of our control, and he just crying and crying and crying in the car. And so he's in the car seat and just constantly crying. What can you do? We can't take him out of the car seat, we can't stop driving, he won't calm down. And so as a result of this, I'm getting more and more stressed out in the back, trying to calm him down. And he's getting more and more agitated. But I can't calm down. Tattooing is telling me that you need to calm down first. You need to become calm so he can calm down too. If he knows you're stressed, he's going to be more stressed. So again, that's an example of it is, as well. That if I'm super stressed and I'm getting super stressed out because I can't calm him down and stop him from crying and screaming while we're trying to drive the car back home, it's making things worse. That's hyperintentionality. And so through the concept of making money, this hyperintentionality would essentially lead to the sort of worldview, let's say, from a transactional perspective. It'd be that in order for me to be happy and succeed, I need to be rich. That's what the world teaches us. That is the narrative and the story of the world, which infuses all of this into us. But in order to be happy, you need to be successful and rich. So when you're focusing on it, you've got that hyper-intentionality on success equals wealth. When you have wealth, you'll be happy, and that's what you're focused on. But as with sleep and trying to calm down a baby, the more you focus on it, the harder it is and the more elusive it is to actually attain. And so, essentially, by setting yourself the next financial target, in order to pursue, quote, freedom and a better lifestyle, after you've already attained your financial security, is inherently meaningless. There's no intrinsic meaning to it, and you are climbing up the mountain towards chasing a goal that's like chasing horizon. It creates like a void of meaning, and for me, the more I focused on this financial target, the more anxiety I had, the more stress I had, the more burnout I had, the more disillusionment I had, and the reason is because I had one main client that generated most of my income, all of my income for the most part. And then, for reasons out of my control, they ended the contract. And then you go from up here down to here. And then suddenly, you need to go from 0, let's say, all the way up to a goal that you set yourself up here. So, all of a sudden, you find yourself, instead of chasing something that's 2.5 times in front, you've now got to go from 0 to reach that again, while trying to build something new in the process. And back to the worldview before, the secular transactional worldview, that the story that we're told through advertising, marketing, social media, and all of these external influences is that to be happy you need to be successful and wealthy. And so you're measuring your self-worth based on your worldly achievements, and then you start to view yourself as a failure because you can't achieve the goals that you set yourself, and you focus on it more and more, and then it just becomes more and more elusive and harder to get, and then you start to compare yourself to other people, other entrepreneurs that might be 10 years younger than you, but then doing better than you. And then what I used to do on a subconscious level was, and I'm aware of this now, and this is demonic influence, to be quite frank. And by demonic influence, I don't mean, like demons floating around and whatnot, but this is an evil kind of influence that happens to you. It's some kind of a spirit, whatever that means, that's influencing you in a negative way, and that I used to look at people and without even realizing it, I'd look at them and I'd be trying to measure up their level of wealth and success and what they're achieving, and then I'd be thinking, how old am they? Are they younger than me? And then I'm thinking, how are they achieving this at that age, and they've got more than I have, and they've got this and they've got this and they've got that, and I don't. And then you do that enough times, and it certainly beats you up and kicks you around the floor, especially when you realise that you're trying to pursue this financial target, but for reasons out of your control, you've suddenly dropped down to practically 0, and now you've got this massive mountain to climb, but there's no intrinsic meaning to trying to climb that mountain. There's no point in trying to chase it, and with that mindset, it quite frankly, it was horrendous, and I couldn't articulate it at the time, but it reached a level where desperation kicked in because I couldn't get things to work, and I'm trying to use Upwork again, which is a horrible platform. I hate Upwork, of the way it operates, and I suddenly find myself dropping my hourly rate, just to try and get people to contact me, trying to get clients, trying to get money, trying to do these things, and I'm just pursuing these lower and lower order goals. I'm lowering my own self-worth and value all the time because I'm trying to get more money to hit this financial goal. This financial goal, which has no meaning to it, because just the freedom and lifestyle, it's just an arbitrary goal to set myself. And then, of course, I had the sequence of goals afterwards. Okay, so you look at it, and let's just say you want to make 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 25,000 a month, 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month. Just kind of something like that. Or maybe you do it differently based on the local currency that you've got, or the equivalent of that local currency, or however it is. So you've got the sequence of goals, but there's no meaning in climbing up that wrong mountain. And for me, it led to anxiety because of it. The anxiety came as a result of fear of losing what I've already gained, This is a powerful, powerful psychological principle that humans are predisposed to. We are more afraid of losing what we've got than by gaining something that we don't yet have. We're afraid to lose what we've got, which makes us hoard things more. So I was constantly anxious, and then I lost my main client, and when I had nothing, that was devastating. It shouldn't have been, but it was. I had emptiness because I can't read my notes on this, so but my emptiness was because I was not. I was pursuing something, but there was no reason or purpose beyond making money of pursuing it. That's why I had the emptiness. I knew what I wanted to do. I saw people around me, where they on the way up in their career, they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time, and now they're really, really good at it. I wanted to be that person because that aligns with who I am, my pursuit of excellence. But then I kind of, I'm comparing myself to them and this and that, and it just spirals downhill. And then I wrote down the other note here is that it led to addiction, which I'm laughing because in hindsight it did. The addiction is that you're pursuing. It's addictive because you're chasing a horizon, so to speak, and it's addictive because of the reason I told you that we need a series of ever-expanding goals. And so, okay, so let me just kind of circle back here to make sure we remain on point. So I've just described my own personal story about taking the right path, turning right and going up the wrong mountain, where I struggled because I set myself financial targets and then I lost what I already have, and then it just led to pain and suffering and anxiety and stress and burnout and disillusionment and emptiness and just generally bad things that just influenced me in such a negative way, destroyed the person who I was. Fortunately, I stopped the business, and the reason why chasing more revenue when you're already financially secure is because there is no deeper meaning to what you're pursuing, and you will very likely, not everyone, but it's very likely that you will experience many of the negative feelings and negative situations that I did as a result of chasing money. You'll become a worse person. You'll become the opposite of Christ-like. You're going to hoard your money more. The hyper-intentionality part of it, where you're focusing just on money, means you're going to treat other humans as a commodity, as a transaction. You're going to treat them as an investment, and you literally take the humanness out of interaction, and that's the path of climbing up that wrong mountain. And the further and further that you go up chasing money without doing something about it, especially if you're a Christian and you go to church and you want to integrate your faith with your business and all, the further you go up that mountain, the harder it is to kind of come back down and realign with what you're supposed to do. The harder it is to accept all of the sinful things and all of the not so good things that you might have done in the past in pursuit of this goal. And it's hard. I've been there. I've done that. I have to accept all of the things that I've done, and it's painful. It's painful to see the person I became, to see the way that negatively impacted my wife and my son at the time. Second one wasn't born yet. You know, it's things where there was this constant undercurrent of stress because I could not achieve my financial goals, and you know, all of the negative things that with it, that was always constantly boiling under because I could not get things to work no matter how hard I tried. And probably down to bad luck more so than anything, because I could do it with clients but I couldn't do it myself, which was, you know, don't understand it. Well, in hindsight, I look back and think perhaps divine intervention was at play there, because you know, once I achieved the financial security that I wanted, and I got lucky with a couple of investments, so that kind of helped ease things when I shut the business, is you know, going down that path of chasing money, absolutely nothing would work. I had no lucky breaks, nothing, and it just wouldn't work. No matter how hard I tried, it just wouldn't work. I mean, not even getting a small win was just out of the question kind of thing, and it just eventually fell apart. And then, you know, going through that, when you focus so much on achieving that next financial goal, and then you're measuring your self-worth against achieving that goal, when things go wrong, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then over some, and this is again, it's painful to admit, very, very painful to admit, but I will anyway, because, you know, articulating these things and seeing what happened to me, if anyone's watching this, you know, maybe it'll help you understand something about yourself and maybe help you avoid it. And so two things come to mind here, is that once I lost my temper with things, just over something extremely small. My wife was 4 months pregnant, I think, at the time with our second one, and I just lost it. I had a meltdown. I was kicking things around, emptying boxes and kicking and stomping around and throwing paper everywhere, and my wife just watched me, and my son was there watching me, and I said, that's it, I'm done with this business, everything's going in the bin, and I put it all in the bin bag, kicking things and storming around, and well, that's not a good example to set for my kid. No, probably mentally scarred him. Other things as well was once and this is even worse, because of the stress that I was under by measuring my self-worth against hitting a revenue target, which had no meaning or purpose to it other than just an arbitrary attachment of, I want to do it for this, this and this. The once my son, who was 2 at the time I think, was just doing what a 2-year-old did, and I was on edge, and so I snapped at him, and he reacted by observing my behaviour, which he had done in the past, as a result of my snappy and not so good behaviour in front of him, the opposite of being the role model that I want to be, because of all the stress that I was under with my business. And he copied me, and he threw his nappy. And then the nappy splashed everywhere, and you know, it was a mess, and things just escalated out of control. And my reaction was then to decide to find his favourite toys that he played in the bath, and then show him that I'm going to smash your toys up and put them in the bin. I just snapped. Sometimes to this day, it breaks my heart, because he mentions just in passing about the day when I broke his bath toys, and that was over a year ago. He still remembers, and that was so uncharacteristic of me, but something in me just snapped, and it was as if it was not me doing it, there was something else that just took over, the anger and all of the sort of rage within me, because it picked up his nappy, it smashed it on the floor, or there was the mess from inside the nappy, all the gel in the fabric went everywhere and had to clean it up, and he's shouting and screaming, and the stress pushed me over the edge into a place where I did not want to go. And that, honestly, it was because I was at breaking point anyway with the business, because of all of the negative things I experienced of trying to achieve the next financial goal, but ultimately failing, and then having the foresight to stop. That's my story, and that's what I went through, and it breaks my heart to think about it, but that's what happened. And it was because I'm chasing the next financial goal. There's no... That's basically it. Maybe you're not necessarily in that same position, but perhaps you can relate with the pains that I've gone through, and the anxiety, the emptiness, the disillusionment, the loss of passion, loss of motivation, and it's because you're climbing a ladder, but you don't have that meaningful goal. There's that misalignment between what you're pursuing and who you are in here, and if you're not careful, you may cross over into the territory that I just described, with how that negatively impacted my family. And I look back there and think, what was the point? There was no point, because the business ultimately closed after taking all of the money that I made as a freelancer and putting it all into the business to try to make even more money from it. Well, anyway, I came down from that mountain, and when I went up and climbed the other mountain, where I anchored my identity in Christ and in God, which is the pursuit of infinite, eternal, and perfect. It's a solid foundation. It means I know that I'm on the right path. And since doing that, I've had clarity in what my goals are. I know that I have an ever-expanding series of goals that I'm progressing towards. I don't know what the goals are just yet, but I know deep within that when I achieve the next goal, I'll have another goal, because it's rooted in eternal impact. Eternal impact means timeless. It's infinite. It's unattainable. I am on that infinite quest, and I know that my day-to-day actions inherently have meaning because of the pursuit of Christ-likeness. It's pursuing excellence, it's pursuing extravagant love, it's pursuing humble services, it's pursuing integrity, and actively trying to apply that in my day-to-day decisions. And by pursuing that above everything else, what I believe is going to happen to me, and what most likely will happen to you too, is if you put God at the top and pursue Christ-likeness in your day-to-day decisions, which is how you connect the eternal perspective with what you do in the day-to-day actions, is you focus on your eternal impact. Well, all of the other things are going to come as a byproduct. You'll probably find that your company makes more money as a byproduct. You'll find that you've got more fulfillment in your life as a byproduct. You'll be happier in your life as a byproduct of pursuing eternal impact over the worldly gains. And so it just instantly gives your life more meaning and purpose and fulfillment, and you'll probably get all the money and financial resources that you initially wanted, but you know you're climbing the right mountain, and when things inevitably get hard, you're going to endure through it, because you will find meaning in the suffering that you're going through, on your pursuit of Christ-likeness, on climbing your Jacob's ladder into infinity, on setting yourself your series of ever-expanding goals that will never end until the day you die, kind of thing. The pursuit of them will never end until you take your last breath. There's deep meaning in that, especially rooted in Christ and rooted in unbiblical principles and the way that you do things. And it just, everything else will come as a byproduct. For me, when it comes to finances now, that what I want to do in my business is I still want to achieve the same financial goals as I did before, but I'm not going to get too hung up on whether I hit them or not. But instead of doing it for myself, for the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of pleasure, the pursuit of freedom, the pursuit of comfort, the pursuit of lifestyle, instead of doing it for that, what I want to do now is I want to allocate a percentage of my revenue and profit. When the business grows, it's still in very, very early startup stages now. And I want to invest in my own projects that align with Kingdom Impact. I want to invest in a low-cost membership, which is how we'll fulfill the mission of Kingdom Impact Lab, where we can empower, inspire, motivate people around the world to pursue Christ-likeness in all areas of life. And then we can create a community with ongoing resources, support and accountability and community and whatnot. And we do it at a low price. So, you know, that I'd be able to use my coaching and consulting and business here to subsidize this membership, where we can have a bigger impact on as many people without having to worry about the revenue of it. I want to use the finances from my consulting business, coaching business, to invest in commissioning a podcast, where we'd interview people about how they apply these Christ-likeness in the workplace and in business and whatnot. But the goal of the podcast would not be we're doing this to make a certain number of conversions or a certain number of sales, or the podcast needs to be profitable, or all this, but none of that matters. But the only thing what I'd want to do with this podcast is I'd want to create a podcast that aligns with what I'm doing, so that people can listen to it and learn from it and be able to hear the inspiring stories without having to worry about, you know, costs and things, because I'd subsidise it through my main business. I'd want to invest in other Christian businesses and help them, and use my knowledge of my experience and knowledge and background when it comes to sales and marketing and selling high-ticket service-based offers, and I'd be able to invest in their businesses with my own time and resources, so they can have an impact in their sphere of influence without focusing too much on how much they're going to be able to pay me, because I need to make this much money over here. I want to invest in projects locally and internationally and around, you know, education and helping people and doing all these things as a result of the revenue that I make in my business. And so all of a sudden, the revenue goals that I would have set myself previously by climbing up that same mountain, by climbing up the wrong mountain, they still apply, except for there's a deeper meaning beyond them, where God is at the top and Kingdom Impact and Eternal Impact is beyond the actual numbers. And that's what I want to pursue now instead. But it also doesn't matter if I hit the targets or not, because there is inherent meaning and joy and fulfillment in everything that I do. And I love sitting here recording these videos, despite being terrified of doing it, and terrified of being on camera, and being self-conscious about a whole variety of things, and self-conscious about the way I look on camera, self-conscious about my voice, self-conscious about this, but self-conscious about a whole bunch of things, and then thinking, well, I'm spending hours and hours doing videos but no one's watching, and I genuinely at this moment I don't care, because I love what I'm doing, and every video I do deepens my own understanding, it deepens my own awareness of the story and what I'm teaching and the framework, and it allows me to speak things out loud and talk about them in depth, and then basically the reason is that the more I talk about things, the better I'm going to be able at explaining complex things in simple ways at some point in the future. And so, I feel fulfilled doing it. Without focusing on conversions, how many people I'm watching, how many people I'm doing this, it just genuinely doesn't matter. And I find enjoyment and fulfillment in what I'm doing because there's intrinsic meaning in why I'm doing it. And that's what it's like climbing up this other mountain here. So the choice is, you chase revenue goals on their own, for your own worldly and human desires, and it's likely going to end badly for you, or you put God at the top and you pursue Christ-likeness and you pursue God, eternal impact, Christ-likeness in what you do in your day-to-day decisions, and then you have meaningful progression while still having your financial and revenue targets there as well. But it's just a completely different perspective and completely different meaning. And then everything you do then, you're still building your business and growing your business, but you're doing it in a way that aligns with kingdom impact and biblical principles. And that's all I've got for you now. See you next time.